What up? It's your boy T-Burn Reaction. So, but this next video is like a makeup for Wrestling Wednesday. Around the time we dealt not too long ago in wrestling, we was in a era called the PG era, and around the tail end of that era before 2020 hit with the pandemic era and all that as well too. WWE had a dark period. I will say that they definitely had a dark period though. That dark period was part reason why folks were either is why a lot of folks step away from WWE, and they was like a lot of indies getting a lot of love. Is part why AEW exists as well too in a way. In a way, because right now it was like the only show that was well known. Impact was still on, but it was bouncing around different channels, not getting easy accessible. Then you had other ones that was like not so easy accessible, like Lucha Underground, Ring of Honor kept bouncing the channel, but they had a prominent channel. So at the time, they felt like they didn't need to try. They felt not they need to try, and they went through a lot of cringy nonsense as well too. I definitely feel half of the nonsense is reason why we dealing with the tribal queef right now as well too. Because fortunately at the time him during his babyface run was not well received, unfortunately as well too by folks. I rolled with him at the babyface, but other fans did not. That's why we dealing with this dickhead now, and especially this one. I said it when I saw it on one of these Michael Cole's best Michael Cole's moments right here. One-liners. It was one moment and around that time, like literally before the pandemic. It was I think literally his last feud with Corbin. 170. I say this definitely to blame why we got the dickhead we got now with Tribal Queef. But other than that, though, we want to take a look at what's called WWE's awful end to the decade, 2017-2019, and it was. I admit, it was awful. I mean, I as much I was gung ho about WWE. I was keep my faith with WWE. I was just riding with WWE as much as I could as well too. To keep it real, it had some moments. It was just pure cringe. Know what I mean? Just like Vince. This is around the time Vince just seemed like he just lost his touch. He was so out of touch. So deaf, tone deaf, man. It wasn't even funny. And then a lot of the releases happening. A lot of the posters not getting the push they deserve. A lot of ball dropping as well too. So let's just take a look and see WWE's awful end to the decade from 2017 to 2019. Let's get it.
The WWE had a flat-out brutal end to the decade, and I think in today's day and age, we should really be thankful for what we have. We're out of the trenches after seeing some of the most inconsistent, discombobulated, and weird stretches in WWE programming. Sure, today's day and age isn't perfect, but at least there's a lot more consistency, and we have good, great, or even...
because that little mascot thing because that little mascot, we got this motherfucker here. This version of this motherfucker here, man.
Good, great, or even downright fantastic pay-per-views. I decided to put everything in perspective and take you guys back to the final years of the 2010s, and let's start in 2017. Let's begin at the Elimination Chamber. Here, Bray Wyatt won his first WWE Championship, and a month beforehand, Randy Orton won the Royal Rumble. Randy was a member of the Wyatt family. He broke out of the group, eventually set Bray's compound on fire. I'm pretty sure that's arson. And then we got the match. Now, keep in mind, the thing for Bray was for the longest time is he just needed that breakout. He just needed that title reign to skyrocket him to the top. At WrestleMania 33, he lost the WWE title, and during the match, WWE decided to project maggots and roaches and other various insects onto the mat while the action was going on. These two ran it back a few weeks later at Payback, but this time WWE wanted to do a cinematic match and something similar to the Hardys' Final Deletion. Here we got the House of Horrors match, which was
yeah.
not the greatest. These guys were brawling in Bray's House of Horrors, where Randy found himself in a room full of dolls hung from the ceiling. We're treated to movie-like background music, and this portion of the match ends with a fridge being dropped on Randy Orton. You're supposed to believe that this match is happening right now, with the rest of the match happening later in the night. Only thing is, this pay-per-view was in San Jose, and while this was happening, it was about 5:30 p.m., and somehow it's pitch black. This wasn't like the Boneyard match or even the Firefly Funhouse match where they tried to do crazy properly. It was just odd. It's actually the randomness what came after which is the craziest part of all of this. So Randy was the WWE champion, and in this match he was attacked by Jinder Mahal. And remember, this was perennial jobber Jinder Mahal, and somehow this man went...
Oh yeah, that and that how we end up getting this damn Mighty Monitor shit. I forgot this is how it started. My goodness.
From a perennial jobber to a main eventer. This wasn't like Drew McIntyre's Chosen One to Ultimate Glory story. No, this was literally a guy who was just a jobber a few months ago, went up to the top, and now he was facing Randy Orton for the WWE title. This was going to happen at Backlash. We got to the match. It wasn't anything crazy, nothing out of the ordinary. And then out of nowhere, Jinder Mahal wins the WWE Championship, and everyone was losing their minds at what was essentially randomness personified. And
the thing about it, this is really what made me feel like dudes was just doing it because he's a heel. They was just being because they love a heel, because these folks was actually a fan of this run. There's folks was actually a fan of this run, like just out of. For me, I was like, they're just being dickheads. Ain't no way or where you be a fan of this run, man. But whatever. This run was nothing but a marketing ploy for India. That is all they were. I'm gonna stick by my statement on that. That was just nothing but a marketing ploy for India. That's all it was. That's all it's going to be. That's all that really was. I'm not even gonna front on that, man. I refuse to front on that, and I don't refuse to front and say that. That's what I really my small opinion on this whole run. That was nothing but a marketing ploy for India, man.
Myself, this was cool as hell seeing some representation, but this title reign was as bad as people make it out to be.
I get the representation, but that's all it was. Representation and a marketing ploy. Other than that, the run, no, man. No. That's all I'm going to say. No.
The finishes were very similar with the Singh brothers interference, a Kalash from Jinder, and that was your match.
We was literally getting an Indian authority. The authority, man. We was literally almost getting the Indian authority for a minute. This was like a Indian version of Seth Rollins' Challenge Run. We had Dino Hall, the Singh brother being J&J Security, and then we almost had a big show with Great Khali getting involved as well too, man. That's just, or Kane. That's all that pretty much. That was literally was all it was as well too. A Indian version of Seth Rollins' title run as with the authority. That's all it was.
There was nothing inspiring or special that came out of this. We got the return of the Punjabi prison, and during it, Khali came back to run a very bad interference on the match. And then when Jinder retained, he thought he was the WWE champion. Heading into SummerSlam, Mahal took on Shinsuke Nakamura, a man who debuted earlier in the year and had a ton of hype behind him. Someone who had a natural charisma and fans wanted to see on that next level. Also, take into account that headed into SummerSlam, Shinsuke Nakamura beat John Cena of all people. That drop does not look fun. Anyways, at SummerSlam, Jinder retained, and after this, he was cutting promos on Nakamura, and I'll just let the clips do the talking here.
Shinsuke, you always look the same.
He only dropped the title because Brock Lesnar did not want to work with him. The reason for this whole thing was WWE wanted to tap into the Indian market a little bit more.
Thank you. Also, he said he confirmed it. He confirmed it. Exactly what it was exactly what I thought. So I ain't talking out my ass. This was literally a marketing ploy. Thank you for verifying this. Who's the author of this video? We watch it right now because I'd like to say thank you very much for pointing it out, Mr. Superkid Studios. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for verifying and claiming that I was sucking on my ass, that this was nothing but a marketing ploy for India, man.
Didn't end up happening like they thought it would. SmackDown 2017 wasn't crazy. I don't think it was awful. It wasn't this dramatic downfall that some people make it out to be. Was it weird? Yeah. Nonsensical? Yeah. But there was some okay stuff in here. So that's the SmackDown side of things. The commissioner of that show was Shane McMahon, who I'll get to in the 2018 and 2019 portion of this video. But let's move over to Raw. And the person who was running Raw at this time was your Olympic hero and mine, Kurt.
He did good, just you know what else came with that.
Kurt Angle. Now, Kurt did some pretty odd stuff in his time. This man would literally do anything to make us laugh, but there was a deep, dark secret that Kurt was hiding from us. All these years later, we come to find out that Corey Graves has some information that's very confidential.
Here we go.
So on the weekly, it's Kurt trying to suppress what this is, and it's really worrying him. This information is apparently something that Kurt says, and I quote, "This could ruin me." Weeks of this secret being teased, and Kurt eventually told us what was up. Turns out he's got a long-lost son. Kurt, an Olympian, wrestling machine, parallels someone else, and it ends up being Jason Jordan. This leads to just weeks of awkwardness between.
Like, I would have said, Chad, if they was the whole idea was shit in the first place. But if they want to go with that idea, Chad Gable was definitely the perfect person, but I guess
these two, hey,
and if they ain't bought it, hate them getting worse of a reception than Roman Reigns, like, because remind you, Jason Jordan was a babyface.
I can't believe you're my dad. Are you my actual dad? They've acknowledged it here and there, and it led to Jordan's push with Rollins in 2018 before his neck injury, and it was just strange. So, okay, he's getting scolded by his apparent dad, and the storyline is, again, continued randomness, but at least he didn't take him everywhere. You know who apparently took their dad everywhere? Bayley. It was time for This Is Your Life 2017 edition presented by Alexa Bliss. You guys know the deal. Bayley and Alexa in a rivalry for the Raw Women's.
You know how I feel about this one. You know how I feel about... Ain't just the rivalry, just Bayley in general. Served on a platter. The best babyface, women babyface, served on the platter from NXT to the main roster. And they somehow fumbled the damn tray.
Title. Bayley had debuted just a few months beforehand, and for those of you who weren't watching at the time, Bayley's character was the hugger, a fangirl who was just happy to be there, someone with the bright lights, bright colors, wacky, inflatable arm-flailing tube men, and a presentation that could easily be marketed to kids. But here, they finished her off and made her look so goofy, because there was one thing that Bayley was scared of, and that was kendo sticks. Hang on.
Yeah. You really you really just fucked that up by doing that, man. That was the biggest fuck up. That is definitely one of WWE's biggest fuck up. I'm still pissed at them for fucking that up. Like, served on the platter, out of a babyface served on the platter, handed to you. He easily been one of the top babyface women's babyface in WWE. Possibly one of the top babyfaces of the era right now. But no, you fucked it. You found a way to fumble that because you don't know. Because you're too lazy. You don't know what to do with babyfaces. Because it's hard to create a babyface these days. I mean, you're too lazy to create babyface. I mean, it's easy to make a heel, but we too lazy to make a credible babyface around the time though. Let me rephrase that. This is all around the time that when it was easy to make a heel, but hard to make a babyface. But they're doing better. Thank God. Like I said, they are doing a better job now with babyfaces. That's all I'm gonna say. If you haven't seen my Babyfaces Rebirth Babyface Confirmed video, I should call it part 2. Check it out. For real. But let's keep going. Oops. I got when you hit the space bar, when you hit the space bar, you on one thing it works with that, but let me get back to here.
In just a second, I'll get to that. First off, Alexa Bliss presented the This Is Your Life segment, one of the most cricket, silent, and cringe-inducing segments in WWE history. And everyone was just like, Bayley's a very nice girl, she's bland, she's boring, she just doesn't do anything, that she was a child.
I wanted that person was somebody to these people
who brought her dad to school and to dates with guys, and Bayley's supposed ex dated her just so he could get close with her best friend, who he then proceeds to make out with, all the while the crowd is chanting boring and delete. What was the icing on the cake in this was Bayley came out to take out Alexa and didn't even get the upper hand, and the match was on Sunday.
Yeah.
You're just waiting for the punchline, for the big moment, for the gotcha. Didn't happen. But on the following Sunday, it somehow got worse. Alexa Bliss versus Bayley in a kendo stick on a pole match at Extreme Rules. Whoever retrieved it could legally use the kendo stick. So they're trying to frame this as the innocent girl who will eventually go off. Bayley retrieves the kendo stick and doesn't even proceed to use it. She forgets how to use this kendo stick, and this match was just a miss. Bayley got walked over, and I don't know if point of no return is an exaggeration. I'd say it probably is, but this was pretty close to.
Sadly, it was point over. They tried their best to keep her going, and they didn't do it, and then eventually turned to now. Yeah, it's a lot. I feel like a lot of this is a blame to from some of the folks we got now. Like this, I already said that damn dog mascot segment with Barry Corbin is really why we got the dickhead Roman Reigns now. And I'll say this is really why we got the Karen Nita version of Bayley right now, the annoying Karen Nita version of Bayley right now, because of this whole thing right here. Because WWE didn't know what the fuck they were doing at the time.
To that. The match was bad and they just dropped the ball with it. Roman and Cena came to us on a random B pay-per-view after Cena just demolished Roman on the mic. This was a generational clash, a new school versus old school match that could have been on a Big Four. Goldberg beat Kevin Owens for the Universal title with KO and Chris Jericho settling for the US title at WrestleMania. If you need an idea for how discombobulated the WWE was, take 2017 into consideration. This also featured Big Show and Big Cass on live pay-per-view broadcast with Enzo in a shark cage. The first ever women's Money in the Bank, which was won by a dude. WWE wasn't even using pyro because of budget cuts. But out of the 3 years featured in this video, this is probably the most tame and safe one. Let's move over to 2018 and get back to Shinsuke Nakamura. So, okay, he couldn't beat Jinder for the WWE title. So, WWE kept going with him and had him win the Royal Rumble and challenge AJ Styles for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. This rivalry, instead of personal animosity, jealousy, or friendly fire, became Shinsuke Nakamura just becoming a nut hunter, so much so that every time these two had a match, it ended like this. They never had the classic that was expected of them, and this rivalry is just remembered as the one that got away. WWE hyped up this match so much, but it just did.
They could have did way better with this feud, especially since both of them are well-established wrestlers from New Japan. This is, like I said, this is around time Vince McMahon was out of touch, old out of touch, and straight up tone deaf to the fullest, man, for real.
Didn't end up delivering. They hyped this up so much.
Not to mention, this also is part of the area why, sadly, for a minute, fans was loving heels more than baby faces even more these days. I mean, I get they kind of somewhat did it with the NWO and all that as well too. Here's where we got the Wolfpack, the WO, and same with DX. Here's where we got a babyface DX right afterwards, an anti-hero babyface DX because he got over. This is around time when they hated it was bizarre world within the crowd, especially with Roman Reigns and John Cena, and they was all for. And they was more hyped by the heel turn than the face turn. You know what I mean? Like, one time they was actually got hyped by the heel turn when Bayley turned face and beat down Becky along with Sasha. You know, she still had the huggable look. She still went heel. They was cheering and yes, and now that's how bad it was as well too. So yeah, it was definitely another dark era to mention about this era. Is when we was really going through the alternate. I was calling it the alternate WWE universe. You know, I call it the alternate years, and I forgot what was it. Flash. This was the alternate, the alternate WWE units or the Bizarre World. You know what I mean too. So yeah.
Saying that their rivalry happened in Japan, how this match happened in Japan, and just because it was gonna happen in the WWE, it was gonna be crazy. Ends up, none of them were really crazy. Let's now talk about your tribal chief and mine, Roman Reigns. This man was getting some of the most hostile reactions ever during this time period. WWE fans wanted to see him as a bad guy, but WWE went against those wishes. I also gotta say that you can dislike the guy, but they gave Roman some really bad promo material too. Always presented as the guy, but he never really felt like the guy. Well, in this year we got Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar parts 2. then 3, then 4. And by the time we got to 4, the crowd was just so over this thing that WWE was trying to do of having Roman face adversity, and they just wanted him to take the win and this saga to be over with. First off, these two main evented WrestleMania 34, and in the build, Brock Lesnar was barely showing up to WWE programming. He held this championship.
That was the other thing right there, that one got my nerves right there. Like, the hostage takeover of the Universal title, man. Like, he's pretty, and it's funny that Roman's pretty much doing the same thing what Brock was doing now. I'm saying, barely showing. Well, at least Rose show up somewhat, but it was like. No, then again, his line was as bad as Brock, man. He's pretty much doing the same thing. Because I think he even mentioned there on as in a promo how Brock doing what he do and everything. Now he's looking like a hypocrite right now. That's we should say. Anyway, let's keep going.
For 504 days, and Raw was left without a world champion for a majority of those 504 days. But what made things even worse was they went full finisher spam at WrestleMania with Brock going over, and the crowd in New Orleans was just dead, tired, and not having it. Roman eventually got his moment at SummerSlam, but before that was probably one of the biggest low points in 2018, and that was Backlash. A few weeks ago, I made a video about the quality of WWE pay-per-views and how they've improved from the fan reception to the match cards and the crowds. And this year, WWE pay-per-views didn't feel like something you should give money to either watch in your house or go out and see.
Yeah, for a while, WWE pay-per-view was so. I mean, it's like, thank God, Tom, we had the network. We didn't have to pay that much for it. But it was like, it's like this whole decade. It was like folks behind WWE, whoever was behind WWE, was it Vince McMahon, whoever was in charge, just didn't care. They like, it was like we were like the only team watchable wrestling right now. So what the fuck? Well, so why must we change? I mean, who else? What else are they gonna go at? All right, who else they gonna go at? You know, Impact can't keep a steady channel. Ring of Honor, we don't know what channel what local channel they gonna be on. New Japan, who's gonna pay for that? Who else? What else you got? AEW didn't exist yet, but MLW. Can we really rely on folks? Heard of? Who else? Lucha Underground. Not everybody had El Rey. Yeah, I know. I did not have El Rey. And fuck the bar about it. I will find out last minute that they did a replay on YouTube, but it's whatever. But yeah, this is pretty much WWE did not care at the time. It was like they did not care. They thought they was just invincible because they was like the only wrestling promotion that was guaranteed televised. But that was their downfall. And I mean, and two, it was all about the money in the business, and it's good for money and all. Money is good and all that. Not all the time for wrestling. It just kind of kills the thing. It just kind of kills the product in a way, quality wise.
See live.
And I was going to say about pay-per-views though, also, and for a good while, the NXT, who was like the closest to indie that folks who can't get access to indies were watching, had the better pay-per-view. Like the Takeover was way better, and then I had folks in the wrestling group calling anybody getting called up to the WWE from NXT to the main roster. They was not calling it. It's like, it's not a call up. It's a demotion. It was almost looked like a demotion for a while for anybody getting called from NXT to the main roster as well too. So yeah.
Two Samoan Joes, and the crowd could have literally been anywhere else. These two went for 18 minutes, and the crowd didn't even want to see 10. Fans were leaving. They were chanting for CM Punk, Rusev Day, which was fumbled. This show is one of the worst WWE shows out there. It also featured the nutshot finish. I forgot to mention what made the nutshot finish much worse was Nakamura and Styles was a no DQ match, but it ended in a no contest after both guys kicked each other in the nuts. I'm not making this stuff up. At Extreme Rules, we got Dolph Ziggler and Seth Rollins for the Intercontinental Championship, and one of the bright spots of this era was Monday Night Rollins. That man tried his absolute best to make that show worth watching.
He did.
These two wrestled for the Intercontinental Championship.
That is facts, though. Seth definitely deserved that Monday Night Raw, regardless whether he was a babyface or a heel. He definitely tried his best to carry the company the best way he could as well too. I mean, where they fell with Roman at the time, and I'm not, I was still rolling with him. They fell with that. They did whatever they could with Seth Rollins. They had to keep going until the Fiend situation. But still, let's keep going.
And the fans hijacked their Iron Man match with the fans counting down the end of each minute Royal Rumble style. So WWE eventually removed the timer from the screen, which was even worse. The crowd started counting at random intervals. Cursed times. And cursed is probably the best way to describe the Universal Championship.
Yes.
In these 3 years, it was at its absolute worst.
Yo,
Roman Reigns, unfortunately.
Yeah. And not just this. This was a sad moment, but when Finn first won it, he got hurt. Then and then we had this situation, and then Brock holding the hostages as well too. It was just, Seth got hurt as well too. But yeah, and I think Seth got hurt as well too, trying to go for it. But yeah, it was cursed for a while. And the only person that was ahead of that then cursed, but it was still kind of cursed not on him, but on WWE itself was Brock Lesnar. But yeah, the Universal title, the red belt, was literally a curse for a good while.
Got leukemia and had to relinquish his title just for Brock Lesnar to end up winning it back, and this happened at Crown Jewel. Here we are, the Crown Jewel disaster of 2018.
Yeah.
For those,
that whole pay-per-view was. If it's the one where if it's the one we also had the Undertaker versus Goldberg, that thing was a whole disaster. And also another ball jaw right there, Braun Strowman, man.
Unfamiliar, in 2018, WWE struck a 10-year partnership with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to have 2 shows a year, which would pay them about $50 million for each event, which in turn had a negative backlash from fans and wrestlers. The first of these shows being the Greatest Royal Rumble. In these shows, WWE would often parade out stars of years gone by, and that was what was supposedly demanded from them. Big names like Triple H, John Cena, and The Undertaker, and we'd get random thrown together builds. At the Greatest Royal Rumble, the rumor was that Yokozuna was requested to appear, but apparently they didn't know that Yokozuna is no longer with us, so the WWE instead brought in a fake Yokozuna. This event had matches like John Cena versus Triple H, The Undertaker versus Rusev in a casket match for some reason, Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, of course. But the second time they went here, this was an unmitigated disaster. At this event was the first ever WWE...
Is that the one where... They both went through the cage. They went through the cage, but they gave the win to Raw. The Brock, literally Roman was like closer.
World Cup, a single elimination tournament to determine the best
thing.
wrestler in the world.
The damn World Cup thing, yeah. Here's the thing. Not a single person in that, except for possible. The closest person that was, there's a World Cup. So you would have thought they had like all the international one. The closest person that was closely international was Rey Mysterio, even though he was raised in the U.S., but he was Mexican. But still, not a single person was international or world. Everybody was literally from the U.S.
Winner would get this ugly looking trophy. First off, John Cena decided to boycott the show. There was supposed to be Miz and Dolph Ziggler in the finals. Okay, this is a match that's delivered before. Miz was instead subbed out for Shane McMahon.
Oh, the best in the world shit.
And he ended up winning this thing. So, there it is. Shane McMahon was the best wrestler in the WWE. And since it's a World Cup, apparently the world. The whole arc of Shane started so innocently and eventually divulged into pure madness. Madness that I'll get to in the following year. But before we round things off, there's 2 more happenings that I gotta get into. So, you're watching a channel called Superkick Studios. A man that used the Superkick as his finish was one of the all-time greats, Shawn Michaels. He had his retirement in 2010 against The Undertaker, and what was so special about him was he actually stayed retired, and in my opinion, he retired in the perfect way and with the perfect story. So much talk about him getting back in the ring and wrestling Daniel Bryan or AJ Styles, but nothing was able to get him out of retirement, or so we thought. He came back for one more match, one last hurrah, and that ended up being one of the biggest disasters in the company's history. He was going to team up with his buddy Triple H and take on Kane and The Undertaker in a tag team match. It wasn't 1998, it was 2018. The average age in this match was 51 years old, and this thing was a mess. This went nearly 30 minutes, a lot of filler. Things did not look clean, just really clunky and a huge mess. A huge dark spot on all these guys' career. The highlight was literally Kane's mask coming off. Wrestling Bios did a great breakdown of what made this match so bad, and I'll link that down below. But man, this was... ouch. Really ouch. This whole timeline is just so convoluted because to cap off the year, we got Dean Ambrose turning on Seth Rollins the same night where Roman vacated his title due to leukemia. The two won the tag team titles, and then Ambrose did the dirty deed. So he turned heel, and then he started wearing this Bane mask to the ring, and his main purpose was to get vaccinated from catching what the wrestling fans had. He said that everybody smelt really bad. Thankfully, he didn't go through with what WWE...
Oh, like, when he predict, and like I say, did he, when the pandemic happened, he went back, like, did he predicted the pandemic, man? Did he predict the COVID pandemic?
Wanted him to do, and that was say something nasty about Roman's cancer on screen. I went back and I watched some episodes of Raw from this time. 3 hours without a world champion, without a hot story, without anything of real substance happening is rough. One of the worst segments was Bobby Lashley and his 3 sisters. I love me some Bobby Lashley.
And that's why we end up getting the Bobby, I mean, the later Bobby got now. Like, that's why folks never want Bobby a babyface, because of this bullshit too.
But how they rebuilt him is really a testament to the WWE. So Renee Young sat down with Lashley and he talked about each of his sisters, each of them with a weird and strange story attached to them. Kathy was attached to a broom, Jessica was attached to a towel, and Francis had a helmet. And it was your typical brothers and sisters telling a story of days gone by sort of deal. The sit down though was just weird. Lashley delivered it really oddly, but the next segment was even stranger. So Sami Zayn decided to seize the opportunity to poke fun at Lashley.
Poor Matt Caster, man. Thank God he came out of this better and way better now as the trio championship along with the Acclaim, because everybody loves the Acclaim, but poor Matt Caster, he's probably somebody too that's in the wig. Lord.
And his sisters, bringing out 3 dudes dressed up as his supposed sisters, and each of them gave a reason for why they were carrying these objects, and it was because Bobby was a bully. The towel was for Jessica's apparent tears, because Bobby was apparently just an awful brother. Just another Crickets segment that you guys can go watch for yourself. Let me know what you guys thought of it if you haven't seen it before. Not to mention, we had Bayley and Sasha Banks, who were almost in a rivalry, and then they got sent to therapy for some reason. Baron Corbin was the constable of Monday Night Raw, and then eventually...
That would make him worse, made him more hateful, made him more cringe and hateful, man.
He became the acting GM of Raw, and this man for the next 2 years was just shoehorned into the most random factions. The exposure level for him was cranked up right to 100. Raw in 2018 was indescribably and objectively bad. It was the most random, thrown together stuff, and they really lacked what they have today. Premier acts and stories. The ratings were also at an all-time low. The fan base was just so tired of everything that was going on. So much so that the McMahons came out
Raw. I think Raw got it the worst out of our show. SmackDown wasn't as bad, but Raw got it the worst. I think half because it was a 3-hour show. Oh yeah, this shit too.
Give a speech on how things would change, that they would take control again and give the fans what they wanted.
Nope.
Well, let's see if they listened in 2019. The year started off with Dean Ambrose leaving the WWE, and following WrestleMania 35, things were odd. Let's pick things up at WrestleMania 35, though. On the road to WrestleMania 35, we had something that the fans absolutely hated with a burning passion, and that was how they fumbled the build to Becky versus Ronda. This was supposed to be a one-on-one match, but Charlotte got added into this, and they also took the title off Asuka so they could make it a winner-take-all match. What didn't help was the ending to the match. This show also had Baron Corbin retiring Kurt Angle, and I thought it was actually a good show with great moments. Only thing is, it was really long.
That's the best
Coming
moment
out of it,
right
we
there.
had Kofi as WWE Champion, Rollins as Universal Champion, and Raw finally had a full-time World Champion. Give me a second, I'll get to Seth Rollins in a bit. We also had the wild card rule, something which was very loose in its definition. Basically, it meant that the brand split was non-existent and stars could go to either brand whenever. We also had ourselves another disastrous Saudi match, this time with The Undertaker and Goldberg, which main evented Super Showdown.
So that was Super Showdown.
A nearly 10-minute match with sloppy exchanges between the two. Goldberg nearly broke Taker's neck with a botched jackhammer. Undertaker's face tells
At
you
this time, it was like, all right. At this point, it was like, no more Goldberg, man. But they just couldn't stop him. They couldn't stop. It's bad enough they had him. I mean, if I wasn't, if Keith, if Lama wasn't a thing, man, I will say it's bad enough they had folks dropping the belt to him as well too. But yeah, that should have been like enough with Goldberg at the moment. But they couldn't.
do everything you need to know with even the finish looking comical. I'm not trying to hate on this stuff. I'm just telling you guys what happened. Let's move forward. At the same time, Seth Rollins was the Universal Champion, and this man had so much hype coming out of Mania, and then he ran into Baron Corbin. The WWE seriously did not have it.
I feel that, and as well as his outside antics on Twitter was not helping as well too. But in show wise, why out of all people Baron Corbin, man, for real.
Any strong opponents for him to continue his reign with. This year was also kind of special for me. I went to my first SummerSlam this year, but I also attended my first pay-per-view ever. And you guys will never guess what it was. I drove down 4 hours to see WWE Stomping Grounds.
Oh my God! The random names for the pay-per-views they had for a while: Stomping Ground, looked like a big ass lug, and then the Great Balls of Fire one. Let's not forget that. But yeah,
today the WWE is doing well for ticket sales. They're running all these huge arenas, different locations with insane crowds. But here in Tacoma, half the arena was tarped off because no one, aside from me and 7,000 other people, actually wanted to go. It's a stark contrast in the quality of the product. Nonetheless, the main event of the show was Seth Rollins versus Baron Corbin for the Universal Championship with a promised special guest referee that ended up being Lacey Evans. I'm still permanently scarred from this show. Samoa Joe was out here wrestling for the US title when he could have just been wrestling Rollins. We were getting pay-per-view main events that were this. But okay, I'll come back to Rollins eventually because there's still one more thing left.
Yeah.
His wife was probably the hottest act, though. They made these two team up, and he called himself the man's man. Arguably, the number 2 act in the company was someone else. And ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the best in the world, Shane McMahon.
Bullshit.
This man, after winning the 2018 WWE World Cup, descended into absolute madness. He had a rivalry with The Miz, turned on The Miz, and then had Drew McIntyre and Baron Corbin as his goons. He was entering every arena, making Greg Hamilton nearly pass out red while announcing him as the best in the world. So much of WWE programming was just built around Shane McMahon and his stories. What were his stories, you may ask? Well, just casually gonna beat up the company's top star, beefing Roman Reigns for no real reason. At one point, he brutalized Roman's cousin Lance. Why? Because he's the best in the world.
Shout out to Lance.
2019 was the Shane McMahon show. But the craziest bit of all of this is the rumor that WWE almost put the WWE Championship on Shane McMahon. WWE played up to the fact that there were people that the fans wanted to see in bigger positions, but they just weren't given that opportunity.
Thank God he
Kevin
didn't do
Owens
that.
even cut that promo.
That till this day is one of my favorite KO promos ever right there. When he snapped, we showed on Shane McMahon. Whoo! And trust me when I say there's no way Washington ever wanted that. Yo, Kevin blew that out the water right there, man. That whole moment was lovely right there, man. Before that he ran on Adult Six with the should be me thing, and I'm glad he came with that. Led to Kevin Owens' face turn, and then he shot on Shane. Oh, I loved it, man. I said that's why KO's low key the Deadpool of WWE, man. He'll be pointing out he'll say what the saying, especially on the face side. He'll speak for the fans, man. He really will, man, for real. And that's why I love that's why his segment with Dominic, we tell him nobody cares what you got to say ever. I love it because he's speaking for the fans. We booing you for a reason. Shut the fuck up.
That you'll see every now and then on Twitter about how nobody wanted to see that. The McMahons are pretty crazy, and at the top of it all is Vince McMahon, who had some brilliant ideas this year. Let's run through them. First of all was the wild card rule, but how about another genius idea? who needs to see wrestling between commercials? For the live audience that paid, they don't need to see it. That'll be boring. Instead, let's make sure that every match ends in a DQ right before the commercial break so we can restart every match as a 2 out of 3 fall.
Oh yeah, I kind of forgot that was coming like that was they was obsessive with that at one point. I can't believe I got reminded how obsessed they were with the DQs, yo.
Match. Next, let's turn Raw's third hour into Raw After Dark and just hope people will think it's edgier because we dim the lights.
Oh yeah.
24/7.
Oh no, yeah. Here we go. Oh man. Ooh, shout out to Renee Michelle though, man. She was the highlight of Rockstar Spud Drake Mavericks though, but oh my god, when they try to turn the lights dark, oh my god. The memories, the fun fucked up memories of being a WWE fan, man. I tell you.
Instead, let's make sure that every match ends in a DQ.
We went through hell as a wrestling fan, and for those, especially us who was gung ho and faithful to WWE. We went through hell again. For those who watched WWE long enough, again, because we all said it because the whole the down period during the New Generation era, but still, we went through hell around this time, man.
Right before the commercial break so we can restart every match as a 2 out of 3 falls match. Next, let's turn Raw's third hour into Raw After Dark and just hope people will think it's edgier because we dim the lights. Genius. The 24/7 title on Raw, I'm not going to lie to you guys, shout out to R-Truth and Drake Maverick, because the stuff they did was actually not that bad, personally speaking. It was supposed to be cheesy, it was supposed to be random, and in my opinion, that's what made it work. The story...
They did definitely shout out to them too. They did make the 24/7 championship work, man, for real, man. RIP to the 24/7 championship, man, but yeah, Truth and Drake Maverick, they carried that thing for a minute too. Till they just gave it to everybody else, man. After a while, I was like, forget it. The only person that I say that kind of carried it away is Dana Brooke in a way, but yeah, they carried this, man.
Drake couldn't consummate his marriage was well done. I can see how people would dislike this. It lives rent-free in my head. 2019 also has another story that lives rent-free in my head, a story that always bugs me because of what ended up happening, and that I'm gonna name is Who Tried to Kill Roman. It was the mystery.
Oh yeah, man. They didn't. It's like they fumbled that. That was actually what looked like could be interesting and everything. And it almost looked like Samoa Joe was going to turn babyface as well too, but he got injured. I think half of it was Samoa Joe got injured. I think that was part of it though, because they just threw that away. And it was also during the time when Daniel Bryan was the Captain Planet champion, man. Came back out of retirement and was the Captain Planet champion. Oh man.
Of the summer, who keeps trying to end the big dog? He was having scaffolding dropped on him. His SUV got T-boned.
Yep.
So who was it? Murphy? Samoa Joe? Nicholas? No, it was Eric Rowan. But first, they brought in a decoy Eric Rowan. Why did he do this? Because he wanted to break free from Daniel Bryan, and he wasn't a quote-unquote puppet. Yeah. So Roman's out here teaming up with Daniel Bryan. And again, it comes back to what I said earlier. The top guy, but he never really felt like the top guy.
And this is literally after Daniel Bryan was supposedly turned heel and with his Captain Planet champion.
To cap off this year, he found himself wrestling, you guessed it, Baron Corbin. Corbin's whole thing was...
Yep, here we go. And here we go. The match, this, out of all the matches, I say, I blame this damn feud. I like this whole feud I blame for why we got Roman the asshole now. Cause it's this damn feud right here. This feud right here is the reason why Roman's the asshole right now. It's a big ass, it's a dickhead right now. Cause this fucking feud they did with him, man. For real.
He calls himself the big dog. Maybe he's an actual dog. So what does he do? He hires someone to dress up in a dog costume, and imitate Roman, remix theme and all.
And the damn
not to
dog
be forgotten
food
is the attempt to feed Roman Reigns actual dog food. The basis behind this storyline was Corbin thought the big dog was an actual dog. This was another odd year for the WWE with more lows than highs, but we have one final scenario to get to.
Oh, yeah.
Hell in a Cell
the thing that not only fucked up Seth Rollins' face run for good. To at this point, it was like folks didn't care anymore. It was already kind of slowly getting there because of the Baron Corbin and his Twitter antics. But this would not only it killed his babyface run, it also killed the momentum and potential of the Fiend. Damn.
Disaster. Long story short, Bray Wyatt rebuilt himself up as the Fiend.
R.I.P.
This
Bray,
mystical,
man.
supernatural character with a split personality. On one side, a Mr. Rogers-like TV.
Another thing they fumble. Now, I mean, I believe he was a tweener regardless. I don't think he was ever a heel. I think he was a tweener all along, and he literally became a babyface. But I feel like he was a tweener all along. But they fumbled this. They fumbled it so badly, it's not even funny. This was another one they had it. This is not even a babyface thing. This is just a good character. Hand it to you on a platter. But oops, drop the plate again. Fumble.
TV show host, and on the other side, the Fiend, someone who was out to right past wrongs. Well, they fast-tracked him into the main event scene against Seth Rollins, WWE's #1 babyface, who had just been booked against Baron Corbin for 2 months, and they found themselves in a situation where neither of the two could lose. Not to mention that Seth, who in the build-up to WrestleMania 35 was just a complete badass, was cowering in fear to the Fiend, and he had lost a lot of that coolness that he had earlier. So we get to Hell in a Cell, and again, I already made a video on this, so I'll go Cliff Notes version. We have this red lighting that surrounds the ring so the fans can barely see, and I don't think they like the booking of this match either. Wyatt attempts to use a mallet to get Rollins, the ref does nothing, but when Rollins uses essentially a smaller mallet, the ref calls off the match and it ends in a no contest. And right then and there, the mystique of the Fiend was fumbled. They had a stretcher come out and attempt to take him away. Fans were pissed, like outraged at what they had just seen from the WWE. The same structure in which the legendary Mick Foley nearly killed himself multiple times ended like this. Fans were chanting for refunds, they were chanting bullshit, they were chanting for AEW, not to mention that coming into this show, there were barely any matches announced for the actual program. So many other weird things happening this year, Brock running out and winning the Money in the...
Yeah, my God. Out of all the Brock Lesnar, dick riding WWE did, this was the worst. I feel bad for Mustafa Ali because he got the short end of the stick and he's never recovered from this. And we end up getting retribution. And this, I feel like a lot of this is cause for a lot of heel shit that happened during the pandemic era. The Bobby Sister thing is why we had the Hurt Business. You know, folks love the Hurt Business. The dog food, the fumbling, you know, this wasn't during the pandemic era, but still, them fumbling Bailey with the kendo stick things, really why we got carrying the belly. The dog food and the big dog mask up is where we got Roman the dickhead, the tribal dickhead. And now I got thought about this bullshit right here while we had retribution or regurgitation, we call them though. But because even though there was a heel faction, they didn't do they didn't work. And then half the reason they was heels or a faction, well, couldn't be really for babyface reasons. But no, they had to make them heel. So put fans into a dilemma. Like, cause we're supposed to boo and dislike the heels, but you're making us feel sorry for the heels. Badass booking right there. Anyway, wait, and it didn't help that time we was in the pandemic era where, you know, everything was piped in. So any heel was getting cheered, and any face was getting cheered. No, any heels getting booed and any face getting cheered for. Where a good amount of them folks that was considered a heel at the time would have probably organically become a babyface because of babyface if there was a crowd from them. I think Hurt Business would have been organically a babyface. That's why they are not they're not booing Street Profits with Bobby Lashley as well too, because they let them know that we're not booing them. Retribution possibly could have got over in a way. If they fought on that reason, they would have got him over a little too. But anyway, let's keep going. But this was bullshit for real. And then what the bullshit came after that? You already know.
The bank out of nowhere. Lashley constantly pointing his ass into the camera.
And this too. This is the reason why had Hurt Business. Good for folks. Good for some folks. My story was Hurt Business. My Hurt Business. Not against the Hurt Business, but the fandom of the Hurt Business.
He would come out cutting these 13-minute promos on how much the fans sucked in his eyes. The Lashley and Lana segments. You guys remember the Mike Kanellis storyline where Maria was pregnant?
They fucked up. They fucked them up too. They fumbled them as well too, man. Poor Mike Bennett, man. They fucked up his WWE chance, man, for real.
Said that she'd rather have Becky impregnate her because she was more of a man than Mike. Yeah, it happened. Psst, you're forgetting something. I'm forgetting something? Yeah, Kofi.
Yeah!
Kofi.
Oh, yeah!
After one of the best feel-good moments in WWE history, Kofi lost his championship to Brock Lesnar in 8 seconds, and he never got a rematch. Why does Brock always...
Shut it up, because everybody talk about that on the wrestling groups, especially in the black ones. They call him Brock Lesnar the black champion killer.
Never mind. And with that, WWE's decade came to an end. After this, of course, we did have weird, we did have strange, we did have downright ugly, but lately things have been different.
Oh my god, the zombie match
was the greatest they've ever been. Are they must-watch TV? Not really. Do they have more consistency? Is the quality stronger? Yes. So just enjoy the times we're in. The WWE lately has been strong, and it's just been solid. As for these 3 years, it was nonsense. It was comedy. It was random. It was odd. It really tested you as a fan of the WWE.
It did.
It was sports entertainment at its absolute weirdest and at times lowest. Now we got Cody Rhodes, we got Roman Reigns as the Machiavellian villain. There's different acts and stories to focus on. So let's just enjoy the times we're in. And when you think that WWE is garbage, never forget these times. And that, my friends.
But yeah, that's okay. He's the one I did a react to the music. I think I reacted to that one. But yeah. So again, I figured this video would be longer than it's supposed to be. I think it might be my longest reaction wrestling video I had because this brought back some memories. But I think I did react to that his video he had about the fall of the rest of them. But yeah, we are definitely we witnessing a resurgence of damn near everything WWE right now. Resurgence of pay-per-views, resurgence in general, and more resurgence in commentary, and more importantly, a resurgence and rebirth of the baby faces, man. For real. We got guys who the crowd are pulled in by. So yeah, I did the reaction to that. I did do the reaction to the fall of WWE music. I did. I just thought about that. Yep, I did as well too. So this is pretty much my second video by Super Kick Studio, man. I did. Yeah, I did. I just thought about that. But yeah, other than that, yeah, we went through hell. We literally went through hell as a wrestling fan, as a WWE fan, and he was right. A lot of faithfulness was tested. A lot of folks, a good chunk of folks left, did not have anything to do with WWE. They didn't want to call WWE wrestling at all. They were separating wrestling from WWE. Wrestling, you had wrestling, which was pretty much any wrestling, Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor or anything, and he had WWE was his own little sports entertainment. It wasn't even folks didn't want to call it wrestling. They didn't want to label it as wrestling at all. It did not at all. No, that's why. And when AEW came in, it was a breath of fresh air. The dick measuring contest was going on. Sorry, that sounded home because folks was going like AEW's this and that. Why don't they still have this and that? You know, this is the AEW thing, and as wrestling, but wrestling fans should like wrestling as it is, regardless of who puts it out, regardless. But AEW came out to show that what's real wrestling is all about, and lasted for a good amount down there. Now it's like some good competition and anything as well too. Just need to have some structure. But yes. we went through hell in WWE. But definitely the last decade, as you mentioned, from 2017 to 2019, was the worst. So, because the 2010s was low. The earlier 2010 was somewhat okay. It was so. I mean, this is about the time where folks was booing Cena, and he was a babyface as well too. But the 2017 and 2019 was wrestling hell. It was hell. Babyfaces was barely getting love anymore. Because they wasn't getting booked right. His was pretty much getting liked more because they pretty much was doing stuff that the Attitude Era Ruthless Aggression babyfaces were doing as well too. Folks were not getting a lot of balls being dropped, more than the old man, more than a lot of fumbling of the bag, fumbling of the push happened. A good handful of stuff handed to you on the platter, fumbled as well too. Two of them being Bailey's babyface, main roster debut as a babyface, and The Fiend, character-wise, period, as well as many others. But yeah, we went through hell. We right now been going through a resurgence right now. The pandemic was somewhat of a blessing in a way. The pandemic was somewhat of a blessing there. The era was somewhat of a blessing in a way. Because a lot of things got resurfaced while the fans, it gave WWE a little chance to experiment and everything and find their footing. And they did. Once things opened back up, they right where they were. They started to get better and better and better. And then Vince got out and Triple H took over and started to get better and better somewhat. But anyway, yeah, we're experiencing a resurgence of everything. Wrestling in general, baby faces, commentator, everything. We are witnessing a resurgence in WWE right now as well too. Hopefully it can keep going as well too. So other than that, if you like my reaction, like, share, subscribe to my YouTube channel so all this video is longer than it's supposed to be. The original video was 26 minutes. I made this man damn near an hour. So other than that, it's your boy T-Bird signing off. One love.